G'day. Tonight's video is on non-grab, and it's one of my favourite topics because it's got one of my favourite techniques, which I refer to as itchy shirt technique. And it's a bit obscure for a lot of people because the outcomes aren't easily definable, but the premise running through the whole of non-grab is absolutely vital to the idea of surviving not just a one-on-one encounter but a multiple opponent encounter. And the term non-grab, it's pretty obviously a physical application, but there's also a mental side to it as well, which actually is far more important. The initial idea of non-grab is pretty self-explanatory, which is I don't want to get grabbed. And if I was to borrow Justin here, the very simple idea of Justin grabbing on to me, and you'll see this in self-defense videos ad nauseum, and all sorts of ways that we can get out of this. And the favourite way for us is firstly to effectively ignore the grab itself. The thing that I always amuse me about these situations is they always forget about the idea that there's these options. But anyway, let's just look at this. So if Justin really wants to hang on, he's got to realise that once he's grabbed that part of me, he gets all of me. Okay? So it's not just my arm that he's dealing with, but my whole system. So there's a few ways I can look at how I want to deal with this. Firstly, it's like, well, if I want to move, I just move. So I can move over here. And if Justin wants to come with me, he can. If not, he lets go. The other way I can move is just simply if I stay in the vicinity, but I move vigorously enough so to hold on to me is like, it's too much. And the simplest way to do that is we've got certain techniques, whatever that we can use, that we use for striking, but instead of instead of using them, say you might do your pop gauchoi or your pace-hours and those sorts of things. So they're used for striking usually, but I can also use them for this purpose in terms of if I just put energy into my system, suddenly it's like I'm just using my strike patterns as a way of freeing myself from that grip. Really simple idea. It's a little contrived though, and there's not much to it as opposed to being a really good starting point. What we're more interested in is the idea of someone actually trying to take control of us. And this is when things get a little more earnest. So one of the features of our style is that we need to keep moving. I've said that quite a few times. And ways that people try to prevent us from moving is grabbing us. So if I'm moving past Justin, he might just even try to grab me like so. And there's a tendency to then start to try and wrestle with that grip, okay? So it becomes like an arm wrestle situation. I don't want that to happen. I don't want the grab, I don't want the attention, I want to move on to the next target. So if I move into Justin and he's going to grab me, and he does start trying to grab me, what I want to do, and this is what I call as itchy shirt type of movement, is suddenly I'll move, okay? So I don't actually have a preconceived idea about how I'm going to move. All I want to do is create this sense of shifting surfaces. So if I was to do it without Justin's assistance, I don't care about what I'm actually trying to do to Justin as opposed to I create a situation where if he's trying to grab onto any part of me, it's moving, okay? So why I say it's itchy shirt, you can pretend you've got an itchy shirt, even your scalp. And so if Justin's trying to grab onto me, as he does, it's like I make it such that it becomes really difficult for him to hold on to me. Now the beauty of this is I'm not concerned about what sort of damage or effect I've got on Justin, but that doesn't matter as long as I'm getting myself free. But if I'm doing this effectively, there's a good chance I can do some damage, particularly if I have a certain leg drive behind me. And suddenly if I'm bringing my hands up around my head, creating this sort of scenario. My elbows come up. Suddenly I'm making life very uncomfortable for him. And I'm not thinking about a technique. All I'm doing is thinking about this idea of itchy shirt, itchy scalp. And if I do that vigorously enough, it causes a lot of discomfort for Justin. It also makes it very difficult for him to stay latched onto me. Okay? So we need to change our perspective on how we deal with our opponents in terms of, I don't care what Justin is trying to do to me in terms of either hitting or grabbing me, as long as I stay free. And part of that staying free is me applying this non-grab idea. The physical aspect of the itchy shirt, it looks a little bit silly, but if you get your energy directed the right way, it can be very effective. How we get to itchy shirt, I've demonstrated the rolling and the ball thing before. That's a starting point. Stone throwing, where you're just throwing multiple strikes. Suddenly, if you bring those together and you actually bring them back to your system rather than out here, suddenly you've got this very vigorous itchy shirt idea. The moving surfaces, very difficult to grab onto. And if you're applying your energy well enough, can actually do some damage to your opponent without even trying. All of this is the idea behind it, is to allow us to move from one person to another without getting stuck, and then ideally to a target, to an exit. Lastly, which will be a topic for a video on its own, non-grab is a mental thing. And in terms of a mental grab is, if Justin was appearing to me as a threat, a mental grab is me saying, gee, Justin is big, Justin looks strong, what am I going to do? That's effectively slowed me down. I've lost the initiative. I haven't accelerated into him, and suddenly I'm thinking about all the potential dangers that I'm facing. Now that slows everything down for me, and it's what we refer to as a mental grab, but I'll do a full video on that on its own because it's quite a lengthy topic. So that's non-grab, an aspect of non-grab. There's more to it than what I've just described, but it can really help in terms of increasing your odds of survival in a multiple person encounter, and even on one-on-one can be very effective. Okay, any comments, let me know. Otherwise, I'll hopefully see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.